Hey y'all, hey, this is Nadia by Nature. I am back with you with another episode of the Wellness Plug TV. And I have a special guest. All my guests are special. We are into wellness, and we are well entrepreneurs that serves our community. And so this young man here is somebody who I connect with on a spiritual level. And of course, entrepreneurship. He's going to tell us his story, but first of all, I want him to kick it off and tell us who he is and what he do.
No, listen, thanks. I'm honored to be on the show finally, right? After some tension or time lapse on my end. Forgive me again. We're supposed to do this a long time ago and we didn't. My name is Cyrus Dixon. I simply introduce myself like this. I am a proud suicide survivor, now full-time real estate investor. And I love people and I love helping people. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a whole lot to unpack in a nutshell. But I
Yes.
think the most important thing is I'm passionate for people and helping people get to the next place in life.
Yes, so that is exciting, you guys. This is new to me as well as you, and I like it to stay fresh because I was so unaware of certain things. I like to see what people come from, like whether if it's spiritual wellness or if it's
Yeah.
emotional wellness or financial wellness or physical. But even just to hear something as such as this is where I came from and this is who I am. So leading up to the real estate, what got you into real estate?
So it's an interesting conversation that got me into real estate. So I'll say this: I've had 5 failed business attempts,
Mm.
and the reason why they failed is because I lost passion in what I thought I was called to do, and it didn't have any depth. So it's kind of like the shallow pool. You jump in the pool, and then you realize I should be swimming in the deeper end. And so
Mm.
if you never move to that deeper end, you always in the shallows. And I started playing in the shallows, and I kept getting bored. Because you can't do too much in the shallow. And
That's right.
then my wife and I were sitting down having a conversation one day, and I said, well, listen, what do we do if one of us loses our job? And we stepped back and we looked at where we were in our careers. And if one person lost a job, it would impact the household and what would the family look like and how it would grow
Wow.
move forward. And then I said, you know what? Let me do some more digging and research. And I had a guy that called me one day and he said, Cyrus, I'll pay you $100,000 a year. And I heard the money and I heard the number. And he asked me questions like, what does your wife do? And what do you currently do? And I can pay you X amount of dollars, $2,000 a week, basically. But he was like, you can't do certain things inside your market, right? If you come and work for me, you have a
Wow.
restriction on the radius that if you leave me, that you can't operate in your market for X amount of years over a certain period of time. And so as I listened to the conversation, he was talking about something called wholesaling real estate. And I sat down and I talked to my wife, and my wife immediately said no. I had been approached by a couple more big name people in the area that are well known and said, hey, listen, would you come and work for me? And again, my wife was like, no. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, listen, Cyrus, I'll show you how to make 200,000. Now, mind you, from the projects, shout out to Lexington, Kentucky, my home, my parents and my sisters, my nephews, and my niece. I got one niece. Um, I heard the Holy Spirit say, no, listen, I'll show you how to make 200,000. Now, listen, you don't need a license. You don't need any certifications. All you need is sheer grit, determination, focus, and discipline and hustle. And I knew I had those things because I understood the drive and having to go get it. Being a college student at one point, but not graduating. And I'm proud to say
Mm.
I graduate. However, the place that I've landed into is a place where I'm able to help my wife and I now build the life that we want to live around real estate and then talk about our legacy. So for the first time ever, we're talking about what does our legacy look like? How do we impact the community, a state, a country, and nations? And so we're able to do that on just a short period of time when it comes down to the space of real estate.
So you wasn't in real estate at all, and people just knew from what you do to ask you, do you want to come and work for them?
So it's interesting. So
That's very
how I
interesting.
was approached was because once I had those businesses that failed, I
Hmm.
said, you know what? I have to find what it is that's going to be the switch for us. And in my pursuit of switching, I realized and did research and I kept coming across real estate. One of the amazing things about real estate is that 9 out of 10 people that become millionaires, they do so in real estate. However, these are not real
Mm.
estate agents. These are people that are investors. How does investing work? It's simply saying, hey, listen, let me buy you a pair of shoes. I'll pay you $10 and I'll get the bank to give me $9 and I'll come out of my pocket $1. And it's literally how it worked. But just knowing that I was a people person, knowing how to connect with people, understanding the language of people, the style that people have, the personalities, being able to connect with people, it made it easier for me to transition from what I was doing into the space of real estate. And I haven't looked back since. So
That is interesting. So give us one business that you were doing beforehand that caused you to fail. I want to know because my thing is I too have pivoted my business. If you unaware, like I've been dance choreography and dance company, even just showing other dance companies how to sustain in times even like this or whatever into
yeah,
full wellness. A lot of
yeah.
people didn't pretty much like that transition, but it went from fitness to dance to now full blown wellness, So I have to wear that umbrella now
Yeah,
that this is who I am. And so we know as business owners, we have to pivot some kind of way to make
yeah.
it not only just sustainable for you, but for your clients, for the people around you, that's a big, huge adjustment, that you have to make. But to go through 5 businesses and on the sixth one, to know, hey, this is where I need to be.
So it was interesting because my wife would tell me it's not going to work. And the amazing thing about my wife, listen, I love my wife. The amazing thing about her is that she's able to discern some things and tell whether or not it is going to work or it's not going to work. And she's just simply said, it's not where your passion is. And I'm like,
Mm.
nah, I'm good. I'm going to do this. Like, I remember one of the businesses, I was going to go into like a wallet making company. And so I went to go buy leather material from like all these different places and like the stitching and all of that. And I started putting time into it in my little corner. And I sat back, I was like, this is not going to get me where I want to be.
Mm.
If it does, how many hundreds of years is it going to take? And I was like, I don't have that much time. I can't be wasting time. And yeah, so I started making some wallets. I did some interesting wallet design, purse design, bag designs. But then I stepped away because I was like, nah, this ain't it. And I lost interest, ended up selling all
Mm.
the equipment, all the stuff that I bought. I think I bought hundreds of dollars of stuff. I bought thousands of dollars worth of t-shirts at one point in time. I said, hey, I'm gonna get into my own t-shirt printing company, sell t-shirts, and it just kind of weaned off. And so I'm like, all right, what's next? And then I found real estate, and that's it.
And so real estate is your new love, your new baby. So the thing
Uh,
is that what I'm hearing What I'm hearing is that you somewhat like me. You don't like the physical part of the entrepreneurship to where you gotta, because sometimes like something like a t-shirt company, you have to actually think of slogans and names, and you got to deal with all these different people, and it's kind of, it's very strategic and it's very
yeah,
tedious too.
yeah.
And that's the reason why I like wellness, because I know it inside out, outside in. I've done it, and so with you being in real estate, could you say that you've learned from your own experience to get you to where you are?
No, absolutely, I have, and it's interesting because in real estate, the physical work I actually enjoy doing. Like I enjoy getting into a house and pulling the house apart and ripping the drywall out and pulling up the flooring and undoing the plumbing and taking the kitchen cabinets apart and the vanities. Because honestly, once you tear something apart in real estate, you get to see how easily it was put together. And a lot
Mm,
of stuff is put together
mm,
easily. However, we have this thought in the back of our mind that to put it together is going to be a lot more challenging than what it actually is based on what we've seen versus actually getting in and doing it. So there was a guy who I bought a $300 vanity one time. He said, yeah, I'll install it. It's going to cost you $400 to install. And I was like, no, listen, I tore one apart. I think I can put it together. All I did was took it out of the box, set it against the wall, drilled a couple holes in the back of it, took 3 nails, drilled it into the wall, put some glue around the top, set the vanity down, and then added all the faucets. And it was literally a process that had I
wow.
paid the man $400, it literally would have been me paying him $400 to do something in about 45 minutes. And so when we get
Gotcha.
into real estate, and I get to pull it apart. I get to see how it was put together, and all I do is duplicate the steps to put it back together. And if I need help, then reach out to the people that I need help to help me put it together versus paying them 100% to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
So now I control my material costs and I can control my labor costs because I also know how to do it. But then no one can tell me, oh, it's going to cost you more. I can say, no, not really. This is what it really should cost, but you're overcharging me for this. So it's just interesting
Gotcha.
conversation.
No,
Yeah.
so I see that you do like the interesting factors of it. It was just that, the labor for the other stuff wasn't as
Nah,
interesting like
nah.
it is now.
Labor for the
This
other stuff is
and I
I
can
can
agree. I'm telling you, I went through the t-shirt process. I went through all that stuff too. And it was funny that you said you bought leather for a project. I did. So the thing is that even just knowing like what is it, purely that you enjoy. I like that you said that you like to tear down the house to see how it gets better later on. Think
Mhm.
about that. That's how we are used as
Yeah.
humans in the
Nah, we are.
spiritual realm. See how it's broken down to see how it turns out. Ain't it
Listen,
great?
so no, it is. And when you start taking in like the spiritual aspect of it, the biblical aspect, like that's a whole conversation.
Building. That is the whole
Listen,
conversation. So take us there. I was ready for it because I was already feeling the whole building. And then when you said those keynote things was, it hit a different way because we are broken down in order to be made better. And
yeah,
some of us as entrepreneurs, we take that as a devalue. Like, oh, well, that mean I'm not good at something or I'm not great because you have to go back or you have to take things down and you have to break things down. Even when we're broken down, we feel
yeah,
like, well, maybe that's not where we're supposed to go. Well, in my situation, I was broken down. My
yeah,
illnesses and stuff, it consumed me. Well, not illnesses, not mine, but an illness,
yeah,
tried to
yeah.
consume me. It broke me down, and now I am who I am. So I like that whole, concept that you just mentioned, and then now taking it into perspective as this can be spiritually building.
Mhm. All right, so let's get deep into it, okay?
Let's go.
All right. So I was having a conversation with my pastor. Shout out to my pastor, Hope Christian Ministries, Pastor Mark Vereen. Dad, I love you. We're having a conversation about a couple weeks ago, and I said, Dad, I want to share something with you that God unveiled to me. I never seen it before like this. I said, it may sound strange, but the more time you spend with God, He'll start to
Mm,
give you greater revelation. And the more revelation He gives you, you'll be able to comb back through His Word and see a
that's right.
different understanding or get a different understanding or insight on His Word. And that's where the revelation comes from. And I said, Dad, I said, Jesus dying on the cross was a real estate transaction. I said it was a business transaction. Had nothing to do with the emotional feeling side of it. I said when he paid the price for our sins, he put down a deposit so that
Mm,
we can access and live in heaven once we die. And that's not a conversation that we've had in the church a lot. It's not something that I've ever heard someone say in a church.
right.
When God gave it to me, he showed me, he said, Cyrus, turn to Genesis 1 and 1. What does it say? It said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In other words, in the beginning, God created real estate for the believer that accepts the
Mm,
deposit and the sacrifice of his son. And then in the beginning, God created the heavens and he created real estate, the very thing underneath our feet that we walk on. Jeremiah, I think it's Jeremiah 2:32 and 8. It simply says to go and buy the land for possession and redemption. And so when you think
mm,
about the Israelites, when they left Canaan, they left Canaan, they left Egypt on the way to Canaan, and it was a real estate transaction based on their obedience and seeing the good in the land and saying, this is where we belong. In other words, there was an exchange supposed to happen, but
mm-hmm,
because two spies only saw came back with a good report, the 10 spies didn't. God said, listen, I have to kill off a
mm,
whole mindset of renting because y'all just want to rent. And so if you're renting in in Egypt, you'll never be able to walk into the possession and ownership of a land in Canaan even though somebody lives into it. It's like God telling you, hey, listen, your house is on 123 Main Street. I'm going to give it to you, even though somebody else lives in it. Our mind says, hold on, God, that doesn't make sense. How can you
Mm.
give me something? And so we get stuck in trying to use our logical mind to justify what God has said. When we just follow the steps, we can actually walk into the wealthy place of ownership.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
is deep, y'all. Like, just think about it. Heaven and earth. That is serious. So, and we read that over and over again, and that's why he said,
Yeah.
you read it to a better understanding. You just try to understand it. But now, that's broken down into just what it is. It's simple. It is very
No, it is.
simple.
It is. I mean, it's simple because when God created the Garden of Eden, it was a garden. And so he put Adam in the garden and said, Adam, I need you to manage my real estate, my
Mm,
garden. I just want you to do one thing. You can't eat of this, but everything else, I want you to manage it. The animals, the fruit, the vegetables, the land. Manage what I've placed you in so that you can know what it's like to be in my presence. Because ownership brings another presence to the table.
right.
Like anytime you rent, you're under the subject of the person who owns, and
Mm,
under the power of the oppression of the person that you pay rent to. And so most people don't realize renting that, to me, renting is actually demonic. Because Jesus said, I've prepared a place that where I am, you may be also. And his father owns a cattle on 1,000 hills. And so as believers, we have to have the conversation in the church about how God desires to sanctify us, redeem us, deliver us, but also to give us real estate for us to own so that we can take the land and say, God, what is it that you'll have me to do with this land? What is your
mm,
desire for my real estate that you have for my life? So that's where the believer should grow and aspire to get to
mhm.
God. Because the same way he gave the Jews Israel, he has land all over the world for all of us to possess.
That's right. It's so crazy that you say this because I was listening to a serum the other day. I listen to my station when I get in my car. I don't want to hear no music. I want to hear somebody talk about some word or some good podcasting. And so he was telling like us how things are aligned. Like so if you don't have a job, if you are an entrepreneur, these are the essential things that you need in order to be able to live. And the main thing he talked about was not only just real estate, but he talked about making sure you have things of ownership. Like you need to own these
Yeah.
things. Like you said, you need to own your land, you need to own your home, you need to be able to produce,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
we look at that, we just like, hey, yeah. And we look at it just like, well, some people, feel like, hey, I have to have my 9 to 5 because it's the only way I'm going to survive. Well,
Mhm.
he was given like some facts on, even if you was an entrepreneur, if you work a 9 to 5, these things you still have to be able to pivot and still be able to live, because sooner
Mhm.
or later the jobs may say, well, we're not going to give you that much, or we're going to cut you, and we're going to do this and do that.
Mhm.
What are the things that you're going to build from having a job? It was just like mind blowing. I wish I had that lesson, because it was just like, I think everybody needs to hear that, because he was
Yeah.
going from you being homeless all the way up, and how people who are still, even if they're up, how they can get robbed. And it just was,
Yeah.
this was
Yeah.
so real. Yeah.
No, and so God, so it's interesting because a lot of times we talk about what is your purpose
Mm-hmm.
and helping people find their purpose, but I come to realize that your purpose is not really yours. Like John 1, I think it's 1 John 3:8 said, for this reason was the Son of made manifest that he might destroy the works of the enemy. And so Jesus's purpose was to destroy the works of his enemy,
That's right.
of God's enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But the purpose was actually his father's. The process was his.
Mm.
So oftentimes we skip the process to run after the purpose, but the process is what manifests God's purpose in our life. And so when you look at Adam in the garden, his purpose was to be a gardener because that's what God designed and created
That's right.
his environment to be. And had he not, or had he processed the garden effectively and kept Eve away from the serpent and him taking of the fruit, we would be having a different conversation. But
That's right.
because he didn't manage and own the process. And so there's,
Mm,
there's two things that I'm starting to realize as I grow deeper in Christ, is that we have to understand how systems work and how processes work. Because everything in life is a system and a process. You plant the seed, water the seed, the grass grows. That's a system. It's the ecosystem.
hmm
And inside the ecosystem is a 1, 2, 3 step process. Husband plants the seed, wife bring, with the egg, the wife brings the baby. It's a process. And that system is creativity. That system is humanity.
That's right.
And so oftentimes you find people that are skipping the process because they're in pursuit of the purpose, but they're misplaced purposes. So they're called to a garden, but they want to be a pilot. So they spend all of their money and resources trying to learn how to become a pilot versus focusing on the garden and the gift that God gave them to
Mm,
nurture and make the garden come alive. And so that's the interesting thing about where we are, I think, in society and as a body of Christ, is realizing the process that we have to go through, not just the challenges, but the process of our gifts, our talents, our anointings, our skills, and how we have to continue to sharpen those things so that we can turn back and say, God, according to your purpose, I fulfilled
mm,
the process of this journey. So that's what I think when it comes down to process and systems.
Speaking of skills, since you're so great in real estate,
Mhm.
tell us, like, what's your biggest project? Like, I've seen some projects that you've done. I mean, if y'all see his work, he tore down this house, and I was like, that ain't no way I'm gonna even step a foot in the house to try to, renovate. But it's all about, to me, when I see people who work in real estate or even just build houses and stuff like that, y'all got a talent and a natural gift for that. And it's gotta be more adamant, more strategic than what we're looking at. It just like we just want to see the outcome.
Yeah,
We see the ugly and we see, the new. We don't see the in between. Like you said, the process, right?
right.
And so I'm looking at you just like, okay, he's building, he's already, into that zone. So what made you get into that zone?
Do you mean the zone of building?
Yeah.
So my name actually means builder. So Cyrus means builder. And if you look in the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, and I won't go into it in depth, but he allowed the Israelites to go back and build the temple. And so after 38 years of living, I finally found my passion was to build. Now it's building emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually,
Mm.
financially, not just the physical building.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but to answer your question, what you said, what got me into building?
Yeah. But if it's
So
a part of you, see this, you just broke it down in a different way. Because my name means Christmas. So I show up, it's Christmas a lot. I mean, you never know, because we talk about our roots now, but you got to talk about your name that's been given to you too
yeah,
sometime. So
yeah.
I didn't know this until I got a little bit older. I was like, everybody got a meaning for their names and all this and that. And most of my friends' names were actually days of the month. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, it was crazy. I was like, okay, April, okay, August, okay, September, okay, October, but my name was unique, so I was just like, okay, but I didn't know that it meant Christmas, but it actually meant the day of Jesus.
See, that's huge because the
So
day of Jesus isn't necessarily Christmas. It's
it's
just the day.
not. So it
So
said
there
both.
you
So
go.
you see what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, but a lot of people in my family say that I show up that way. So this makes
Mhm.
sense that if you're Cyrus, the builder, this is exactly who you are. Some things we don't even look into as to what we're ordained to do. We find out later on.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I think the thing that I love about building is that I love to see broken things come to life.
Mm,
And so, like, if you look at our society and I look at our world is in a broken place.
mm,
So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, we
I
have
agree.
to have the builders who can align the people so that they can be built in every area that I mentioned: financially, emotionally, spiritually,
That's right.
physically, and mentally. And so if you look at, I look at houses from a building biblical perspective, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't understand that the most important thing on a house is its foundation.
Mm.
Now you can have gold toilets, you can have gold floors, marble floors, you can have porcelain flown in from Italy, you can have ceramic windows, uh, I don't know, black diamond window. It doesn't matter what you build on the foundation. If the foundation is damaged and beyond repair, it changes the entire value of the building. And our
That's
lives are
right.
just like that. Most people are living a life of a broken foundation that they didn't fix or repair. And so it's like having a 50-year-old house that was never repaired. The value is going to be destroyed until you go back and physically replace that foundation. Well, the same thing in our life. Like you have to go through a series of forgiveness and healing and growth and development. You have to be 40 and go back to your childhood when you were offended and violated at 12 and 10 and 11 and say,
Mm.
God, let's fix the foundation. Because I know I'm a person of value, but I can't see it because my foundation was messed up.
That's right.
And so when I look at a house, before I dive into it, I think of the house as like a person. Like if you fix the foundation, you fix the walls, you fix the electrical, you fix the mechanics, you fix the HVAC system, you fix the windows and the roof and the drywall, you paint, put new cabinets in, and you redo the bathroom, you fix the framing. You actually have a broken property that was brought up in value and now can be sold at the highest price. And so our lives are just like that. We have to take time to build our lives up from the broken places. Like, the situation in Charlottesville, I wasn't shocked because I understand how broken people operate. And let's be clear, the Bible says that the enemy has done this. These three young men that died in
Mm-hmm.
Charlottesville. I wasn't shocked as a believer because I understand when you don't address the brokenness, the
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, the abandonment, the rejection of a child, they grow up in pain and they cause harm. Why? Because an enemy has done this. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't him. It was a driving force and factor that made him do what he did. And it's like that across the world.
It
So
is.
as believers, our responsibility is not to chase another check. It's not to pursue another dollar. It's literally to make sure as disciples that we're grooming and we're helping the broken places of people's lives to be made whole.
Wow. And speaking of made whole, you being a survivor, I feel as though that's something that, you relate to and actually pouring into what you do now as far as your business. It's kind of like a spiritual ministry building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would you say that you being a survivor helped you become who you are today?
Absolutely. Listen, that experience of, number one, back in the early 2000s, 2002 to be exact, mental health and conversations of depression and suicide
Mm,
were not on the table and publicly known.
limited.
It's kind of like, hey, keep that under the rug. Don't mention it. Don't say it too loud. Don't be affiliated. We don't know who's really being impacted. And it was swept under the rug. And God allowed me to live through a crazy experience of a suicide attempt where I slipped my left wrist twice. And so I thought I was checking out. I was like, all right,
Like
I got to
game over.
rush my ticket. I'm gone. And then I heard the Lord say, you can't take a life that you didn't create.
Mm,
I kept hearing the voice of my mother and father say, hey, you have to know God for yourself. And so I kind of came to myself and I looked down and there was blood everywhere. And the next thing you know, it felt like a WWE wrestler punching a 5-year-old in the chest. I got knocked back into the wall. And next thing you know, I'm at the hospital. And the
wow.
doctor's amazed because it's like you cut off the top of a straw. Is how I slipped my wrist. And so there was no pressure applied and there's no telling how I got to the hospital. And he put his hands in his head and he said, I have no medical reason to explain why you're alive. And when I heard that, I just began to weep because I knew God spared me, but I had no idea what was for.
What is for?
And I remember leaving the hospital, and the doctor said, well, you're going to have to take Prozac for the rest of your life. But I remember leaving the hospital like 3.5, 4 weeks later. And I remember the Holy Spirit saying, Cyrus, pull the pills out of the window. You'll never need another one a day in your life. So I rolled down the window and dumped the pills, and my dad was like, what are you doing? I said, God said, I'm not going to need these. And that's when my faith in God grew to the point where I knew I had been sheltered by God, and that the enemy can come as close as he wants, but he can't take my life. And for 13 years, I lived with the abandonment, the rejection of close friends, close family members, fraternity brothers, sorority sisters that were like, ooh, get away from me. I don't, you got a cold. I don't want to catch cold. I don't get this thing. Like, why would you do this? Like, and they downgraded me. But in those 13 years, God just had me simmering. He was preparing me. And I remember telling people publicly about it in 2015. I kind of just threw it out there. And the response was overwhelming. And I talk about it to this day because without that experience, I would not remind myself every day that I'm a dead man walking.
Wow.
Because that's what God calls me. Cyrus, you're a dead man walking. You owe me. Me and God have interesting conversations. He always wins, but when he reminds me I'm a dead man walking, that's his way of saying, you got to do what I called you to do. Because let me remind you, you were supposed to be dead. But it's crazy because Ezekiel 18:6, favorite scripture, it says, while I saw you lying polluted and laying in your own blood, I reached down and I commanded you to live.
Wow.
Literally, God commanded me to live.
Same here. I can attest.
Yeah. So
Same here.
it's been a great journey, and so there's much more for us to pour out. And those who are alive have a greater appreciation of life, and even defending and fighting and stepping up for what's right and what's righteous.
That's right.
So that made me who I am today.
That is so amazing. Because a lot of people think that suicide too is a physical thing. Sometimes there could be a mental suicide. I know a lot of people check out, and I can say honestly, in relation to your story, I was one of them. I was so ill that I was just like, you know what? It's okay. The kid's gonna be okay. Family gonna be okay. I gotta go. I got to go because this feeling, I don't think I want to continue to live with. It's just like when I see people, be in a car accident, and don't you think about it, and then they come back and they're paralyzed mentally. I know somewhere in there they checked out, and so I was there. I felt like I was just paralyzed to just anything and everything. I didn't understand, but he too. I was in that moment. I swear to you. Mine wasn't a push in the chest like Fabio. Mine was more like grabbing, like somebody literally. I was outside and somebody grabbed me in, and I felt the pressure of being composed again. And I can tell you right now, I didn't enjoy it. I was ready to go and just, hey, I believe I can fly. I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm being so serious because I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain. So mentally, because I didn't know the levels of suicide. I really didn't. I never even used the word, like you said, people think that's just contamination, but it's real. And I can honestly say that people fake like they've never had those issues, but if you love someone and it's been taken away, you felt that way before. You felt that. You just don't want to admit that you felt that way. And I love myself enough and my family enough to say I don't want to torment them with having to take care of me like that.
You're right. And so even for me, even now, the enemy, God will allow me to be able to sense and pick up the heaviness and discern the depression and hear the cries of help for people that want to commit suicide.
Wow.
And it could be in the most strangest of places. Like my nephew had crossed at a university, Virginia State University. He had, like, was coming out and pledging a fraternity. And there was a young lady that I knew that came up and started speaking to me. And in the middle of our conversation, the Holy Spirit was like, Cyrus, she's suicidal. She's ready to go. And then mind you, there's probably 2,000 people in the stands. I'm on the track with my wife and a couple other friends, and they're doing their thing on the track. And the Holy Spirit is like, Cyrus, she's ready to go. Lay into her. And I remember pulling her and speaking into her ear and praying over and speaking over her life and just ministering to her. And it was like nobody was around. And it was when God taps me on my shoulder, I don't care who's around. I could be at a ball
Get
or a
into
gala
it.
with the president of the United States,
I like that.
the king of a foreign nation.
That's
When
right.
I hear the voice of God, I'm like, okay, God.
Obedience.
I'm like, I can't do it right here. He'd be like, Cyrus, you're a dead man walking. Okay, cool. Gotcha. No questions. And so I remember praying with her, and she was just crying out. And people were looking. I was like, y'all don't mind her. She's getting free in the midst of 2,000 people. Wow. And so, yeah, it's just God has a funny way of cultivating and allowing when you give your ear to God, He has an interesting way of using your ear.
That's right.
And your mouth as a tool of deliverance any place where you allow Him to. But you got to do it strategically, right? You have to do it in a manner that's not offensive, but yet can get to the core of the problem. So
that's right.
And
sometimes that stuff is offensive. Sometimes it's gonna be offensive because God is God. So sometimes His approach is different from what we expect. Sometimes we go hard on these people. It can be a stranger, somebody who we love, and they understand it, but looking on the outside in, just like, Cyrus, why you talk to her like that? But that person feels it, right?
Yeah, and so like the offensive is like if you're in a quiet setting in a room, not going all loud and speaking in tongues and screaming at the top of your lungs, because the Holy Spirit will give you what to say.
That's right. That's right.
And when He gives you what to say, you can say it with a soft and light tone, but it'll still break whatever that person's battling. So it's just just trying to be mindful because not necessarily caring what people have to say, but know that God can still get His message across in a still small voice, or it can destroy the enemy.
That's right.
So that's powerful to know we serve a God where He can use our simple words and light tone to completely unravel the mayhem that's going on in people's lives. It's unbelievable.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that is unbelievable. And that's why, I wanted you on the show, because I enjoy, like, even you just telling, when we were on another show, guys, like, and he was just telling a little bit part of his ministry and what he do and how he help others. But now I see that this is a foundation thing. Like, not only just building from a foundation from the real estate, but this is an internal foundation thing that you could collect it and able to help others. Because I feel like he put the main ones through the stuff to show the good stuff. Because I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I'm confused by but then when I hear other people's stories like yours and other people just in general, even something as small as I had to shave my hair that day because I had glue stuck on it. It just stuff. We never know where that story is going to take us. And you'll be amazed how it changed that person's life and how it's projected in somebody else's life. And so
you're absolutely right.
I looked at you just like, okay, this is a spiritual builder. He don't understand that, I love the ministry behind it, and for you to grow your business now and carry that ministry.
Yeah, listen, I mean, one of the things I cannot do is I can't shake and I can't get away from the call of God. It's interesting. Some people I know, they can just ignore God and disregard Him tapping them on their shoulder and giving them instructions and direction. They're like, God, well, I can't do that because it doesn't line up with my agenda. At the end of the day, our personal agendas really matter.
That's
because nothing that we have can we take with us. It all belongs to Him. And so if we're trying to get in, I'm trying to hear that well done, thy good and faithful servant. Am I perfect? No, absolutely not. But we strive to please the Father. not to quantify and justify why we are the way we are, but we ask God to shed off our issues, our weights, our heaviness, lay aside our heaviness, and pick up peace and righteousness and pursue. And so that's where, if more people really pursue God in his righteousness, then they would always want to make sure that they're doing righteous deeds versus trying to be right themselves and,
Mm.
getting getting by on people.
Righteous deeds instead of trying to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to put that on a shirt. So speaking of a shirt, I'm looking at this shirt say hobo.
Yes.
Give us that. I want to hear the
All right.
details
So
behind it.
listen, this is the hobo group, right?
Love
Hobo
it.
stands for helping others buy and own. It's passionate. Big shout out to my wife. Listen, we started the company. It was called Dixon Real Estate Investors. And then she said, you know what, we need to change it. I said, okay, well, what do you want to change it to? And then she said, I got it. It was like a couple of days later. She was like, hey, I got it. Hobo. And I was like, hobo? What are you talking about? And she was like, simply helping others buy and own. And that process, as we
Wow.
progressed to it, it really started to evolve into
Mm.
God really taking the lead on our business and with our company, to the point where the reason why it's hobo is because we're replacing the connotation of what people expect to get them to see something like, oh no, look deeper. We're gonna help you buy and own, because once you buy and you own, you have a different level of authority in the earth. Like, I can go and complain now to some of the counties and cities we have houses in, and they're going to listen to my voice because I'm an owner.
That's
But
right.
when I express the sentiments of my concerns and they choose not to listen, then they know that I have the power to take my business somewhere else. And as soon as you take your business somewhere else in a city, the city loses revenue. It loses opportunity to make money off of you and tax you and so forth. And so that's the reason why it's important for our community, especially believers, to focus on getting an LLC. Start your LLC. Start an LLC. You'd be surprised, and I'll say that this is the only time I'll give shout out to Donald Trump. Okay, um, when he said I paid $750 in taxes, and he was doing a debate with Hillary Clinton. He was like, "Which yeah, I get all these massive tax breaks and tax cuts and all these benefits for being a billionaire." He was like, "And so does your friends." He was like, "Because you all wrote the law." And what I
Mm.
started to realize is that if we stop teaching our children how to write Section 8 vouchers and taught them how to leverage LLCs and write for grants, we change the narrative. Like,
Change
I
the
know people
narrative.
that have no children that get more money back in taxes annually than a married household with 5 infants. It's crazy.
It's insane. And that
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And I love the hobo. Because my thing is, look, I'm jumping right back into it. Helping others buy. I mean, my thing is that everything that we do, it's not just entrepreneurs, it's people, we supposed to be helping somebody.
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
not only that you're helping others, but you're helping others to buy and own.
Correct.
And so when I first seen, I think you had it on the hat the last time
Yeah.
I seen it. So I was like, that is so cool. And I just wanted to, wanted to get the definition of it. Cause you see FUBU, like
Yeah.
FUBU was on, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
get all those, acronyms and stuff like that. But this one is for sure a good one that is not just even for real estate. This is intentional.
Yeah. It
So
is.
when your wife was looking at the business, she was like, yeah, we own something, but this is intentional. This is what, what's going to get seen. This is what's going to get heard because it looks like you. It goes
Yeah.
on you. It fits you,
Yeah.
it suits
Yeah,
you.
and so we make sure that we try to keep our brand
That's right.
clean of any bad business and bad dealings, where we don't have any integrity flaws and no shortcomings. And so we protect the brand, because when you're helping people, you're literally serving humanity. And so
Mm,
that's what help is. It's another form of help, of service for humanity. But the interesting thing is, like, everybody needs help.
that's right.
Like, even Elon Musk, who's the world's, at this current moment, he's the world's richest person.
Hmm.
He still needs help from the engineers to fly a rocket and build a rocket to fly to outer space.
That's right.
He needs help to get that back down to earth. Now he has the money, but he still needs help. And so if the wealthiest man on the face of the planet needs help, like we all need help. It's just
That's
really
right.
about being honest and transparent and asking for the help.
That's right.
That's the goal.
The connections. And
Yeah.
so definitely get connected with Hobo. Definitely get connected with Mr. Dixon,
Yes.
especially when you want to learn more about buying and owning. And because I definitely need to learn some more stuff about real estate itself, because I've really found out, like you said earlier, that is like one of the key things, and not easiest, but one of the ways for you to become a millionaire faster than most
But
people.
hold on, listen. It actually is easy. That's what people don't understand. It's easy. So this is what it is. You're solving a real estate problem for someone. Now, this is where the someone is. They could be divorced, bankrupt, relocating, inherited, foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, tax lien, tax delinquent, abandoned, distressed, vacant.
Mm,
Watch this, burnt down. So if you know a firefighter that just cleaned up a house that got burnt down 2 weeks ago, you can call him and say, hey, listen, who owned the house? And then research the person and say, hey, listen, I know your house just burned down. Not like say it like that though, but like, you know, the house burned down. Say, hey, listen, I would love to make an offer on your house. I know it's fire damage. But what if I offered you $60,000? They say yes, and you put another $60,000 into it. It's 120, and then you sell it for 200,000. You just made $80,000.
right.
And the
Wow.
interesting thing about it is that people will give you 90% of their money to buy it and to rehab it. And all you had to do is put down $6,000.
Wow.
Now, that
Hmm.
means if you have 6 friends and all 6 of you all can come up with $6,000, you put 10% down on a $60,000 house, you get $120,000 for the renovation and to fix it up. And then you sell it for 200. Once you make back your $6,000 on your reimbursement, or your get your money back for the down payment, you pay your investor 10%. So you're looking at about, he gave you 120, you pay him back 132 minus the 6,000, so there's 138. 138 from 200, you're looking at $62,000 divided by 6 people. Then you just made $10,000 a piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so it's crazy that you say that, because I have a lady that I follow on Facebook for years, and she's a real estate agent, and so she teaches like credit, the whole 9 yards, to help people, get into the houses faster than most, places. They just have one thing, and or either they just want to sell you the house and they don't have the other things, behind it. Well, one thing that I learned from her was about like that little part of the real estate that you just mentioned before, like gonna go buy it,
yeah,
faster. So she said
yeah,
that she didn't have no money, went and borrowed $60,000 for a $300,000 house.
yeah.
But really, the house didn't cost nothing, but probably about it cost 60,000. That's what they started out with.
Mm-hmm.
Renovated, did everything they need to do in it, sold it for 300,000. So she
Yeah.
said that was her first initial flip. She said that took probably about 7 to 8 months to make, that back. Of
No,
course,
listen to
she
me.
said she said
No,
she immediately paid that money back, real fast.
listen. It's crazy how this real estate space works, and so I encourage everybody to start is to get
Try.
into real estate. Now, I'm not an agent. My wife is a licensed agent. I'm just a guy that sees a house and makes an offer on it. And if you like my offer, I buy it, I renovate it, I put it back on the market, either rent it out or I flip it and sell it. But I mean, it's literally finding that distressed
Mhm.
property. It's, hey, somebody who knows somebody is getting ready to lose a house or needs to sell a
Right.
house within the next
True.
30 days. The problem is that when you get into it, you have to be consistent and ask and talk to 10 people a day.
Mm.
If you talk to 10 people a day in a month, that's 300 people a month that you tell, hey, I'm a real estate investor. Let me know if you know
Wow.
anyone who's trying to um, sell a house, because I'll be willing to buy it as is. And I'll even pay you $1,000 if you help me contact the homeowner. And
That's
so
right.
those opportunities are literally out there just waiting for people to take advantage of, to talk to your coworkers, friends, families, neighbors, and say, hey, listen, I know somebody who wants to sit by your house as is. And yeah, that was my start to real estate.
I'm telling you, because when she threw that story out there and she explained to us too that it was so easy, I was still just like, that's not easy. Because you got to go through the process of, especially like she did, get the funds from the bank so you can flip it. A lot of people right now don't have those opportunities due to what's going on right now with the economy.
So here's the thing. There's never a bad time to get started in real estate. A recession is the gold mine for an investor to make millions.
Mm,
And so as we go into this recession, fortunately for the investor, it's a recession.
mm,
Unfortunately for the people who don't understand investing, it's a recession. Which side of the coin are you on? So I know people that are literally preparing to buy 10 and 20 and 30 houses as we go
yeah,
into this recession.
I believe
But
it.
here's the thing, they're buying it because they have the relationship, not with the bank. They have the relationship with the people or private lenders or hard money
Mm,
lenders that can give you money to buy a house based on the asset and the value. So like the lady who said they bought the $60,000 house, I guarantee them that the lender said, "Oh yeah, we'll fund the deal. We'll give you 60,000. We'll probably give you another 100,000 to fix it up because we know that you can sell it for 300." So that means they're going to give you 160,000. You're going to sell it for 300,000 and potentially might cost 140, $130,000 on it. Yeah, here goes the money. And so your private lenders will actually give you, it's called OPM, other people's money. Private lenders will give you the money based on their vision of the property and where it can go and
mm.
how much money that you can potentially make. Because if you make money, then the lender's going to make more money.
They make money. You keep going and going and going.
That's it. Repeat the cycle. That's all we do. Literally every
And
day.
that's what she said. She said that she's gonna just keep repeating the cycle. So now, I want to say that, well, she's had recognition in Georgia for her being one of the largest and a big time like real estate agent, and
Uh-huh.
she's doing it by herself, husband and wife, just like you guys. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to send you her
Yeah.
information so you can check it out.
Nah,
But
send it to me.
yeah, and so it was just so interesting, when I'm hearing your story now. I'm like, oh wait, I remember somebody else was telling us about this, whatever, something
Yeah.
similar. But the way you're doing is just kind of like, you're doing it in a different way. But she just said that's how she started off. So now, she's bought, I think she's got 5 kids. She's got 3 mansions for them. So 3 of the oldest kids have their houses already paid for.
Yep. That's
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
works. That's legacy building.
that's
That's
right.
that's stepping out on faith and understanding
That's
how
right.
real estate works and working to increase your portfolio
That's
to the
true.
point where you can give away houses. Like we have people that call us and they actually give us land and they give us houses. I think the lowest we've received land on 2 or 3 different occasions where they're like, "Hey, you can just have it," and then we've bought a house with $1, $1,
Wow. Wow,
$1.
wow, wow. Yeah, you're right. Definitely building a legacy, because the way I see it is though, like, um she was homeless. So
Mhm.
to come from being homeless with those first 3 babies, and now they own homes, so I know that's a
Yeah,
big deal, like stirred up in her, because you
yeah,
got to have a lot of faith to just sit with your husband and wife and sit there and say, hey, this is what we got to do, you
yeah,
know, and not having good credit, but building enough just to borrow, just to
yeah.
make it into something.
Yep.
So, and that's
That's
why I
right.
tell people all the time, entrepreneurship is not just like, it's just not crispy and easy. But
Yeah, you're
there are
right.
things that, if you are adamant about, like if you real consistent about it, real serious about it, I believe that you'll get the vision that you need to take it further
Yep.
than you need to take it, than you
You're absolutely
want
right.
to take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely thank you again. Like, look, get educated. Y'all need to get
Yes.
educated. Go and follow the page that he's going to give you the information And of course, before we even go into getting more information, I want you to leave us with a word of advice. What do you have for us, even if it's spiritual, if it's about just entrepreneurship, anything.
A word of advice. All right. So one of the things I pray for, two things I pray for every morning that I want to give to everyone to start doing. Um, Pray this simple prayer. Lord, show me how your kingdom works
Mm.
and expose poverty to my life. Once God shows you how he functions and operates his kingdom, you'll start to be able to see that you can operate in his kingdom as ambassadors, as representatives, according to the way he designed. And then once you understand how poverty works, now that's not just financial poverty, but it's mental poverty, emotional poverty, spiritual poverty, physical poverty, financial poverty. And once you hate poverty and you get it in your mind and in your heart to destroy poverty, then you'll reap the exact opposite of what you're destroying. So whatever you do, wake up every day and hate poverty and ask God, God, show me how your kingdom works. That's it.
Ooh, ooh, wake up every day and hate poverty. I have heard of when you contribute to things, more so of the things that you don't like, you'll get those dislikes, like if you say
Yeah.
every day, hey, I'm so tired that I don't like
Yep.
this job, you're gonna be so tired that you don't like the job. But like you said, that's a good one. Hate that poverty. Make it stay
Hate it.
back.
Hate it.
Make it stay back. Leave me alone. I don't believe in you. You need to go on about your business.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yep.
That's a good one. I like that one a lot. That is a real good one. That's a good one. Take home. Okay, so we want to know how we're going to reach you. If you have a website, especially how to get the hoodie or that hat. Okay.
Okay, okay. So you can do two things, or a couple things. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook at the Hobo Group, TheHobogroup. Send us a DM or send us a message, and we'll definitely get back with you, especially if you want a hat or a shirt. And then also check out the website. It's www.wehoboproperties.com. We help others buy and own properties.com. And listen, we love to connect and love to build and love to help anyone that we can along this journey. We got some mentoring, some coaching that we can help you with. But I'm trying to tell you, if you don't do it now, you'll regret it in 20 years because the property value of houses are going up so much. I looked at some land the other day. No, I'm sorry. We're demoing the house the other day, and I'll say this, I'll be done. We're demoing the house, and in the process of demo, I found a box tucked away in the closet underneath a floor. I mean, underneath a ceiling. It's kind of in a weird spot. I go to open it up, and inside of it, it literally in 1943, there was a gentleman named Alex that sold 40 acres for $600.
Wow.
1 acre right now is worth at least an acre and a half in this county is at least worth 30, $40,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're right about that.
And so if you don't get started now, because value of housing is just, it creates a new high. Even though we're going into a recession, it's gonna, if the value or if the value was before the pandemic $200,000, the housing price market would never go back down to 200. It'll go down to
Right.
250. And then
Right.
20 years ago down to 300. So it keeps creating a new high. And once you start creating new highs and you don't get in, 30 years from now, you look back and say, man, I should have bought that house for 200,000
Right.
because now the house is worth 400,000.
Oh, that's true.
And the pandemic just accelerated those things. And the recession that's coming is going to accelerate them as well.
That's right. I totally agree. I seen something the other day. I was like, oh, I remember when the price was this and it
Yep.
went to that. And then and even though right now it's going down, just trickling down just a little bit,
Yep.
I'm like preparing myself for it to, just like take a big shot And I do know that we do know that the world is evolving and things are going to change and that's going to stay the same. Because I remember, even gas being 99 cents. Or I was even telling somebody the other day that a Sprite now costs $2.30.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you walk in a grocery stores. I'm talking about not even just gas stations, they are already high. But,
Yeah.
and so I look at everything like that, like you said, with real estate and the whole 9 yards, because we want to potentially be buyers. I'm sure, other people out there listening, just like, I want to be a buyer. But like you said, line up those ducks right now to get that stuff, taken care of, whatever it is, whether if it's your credit or whatever. And then take those precautions because right now is the time.
So here's the interesting thing about real estate. You don't need no credit score. You can be a felon. You don't have to have a job. Like, to get into investing, you absolutely don't need anything
Thing.
except for sheer will and determination. That's it.
Mm, mm.
And I mean, I talk to people that make $40,000 and $50,000 a month in real estate. I was with a good friend of mine on Sunday. They probably make $80,000 a month in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
He's 4 years old. And so it's out there. It's just really disciplining yourself, finding you a good coach and a mentor, someone that can set you up. Now, here's the thing. In our community, we don't like paying for nothing. But what happens is when you pay for a mentor or a coach in real estate, they're accelerating your time and they're keeping you from taking 24 months. They're helping you get it done in 3 or 4 months. Because once you get it done in 3 or 4 months, you can duplicate that over the next 20 to 21 months, and you can see your results quadruple as long as you put in the work. So, I mean, I'm gonna try to. I'll digress. I'll start talking about real estate, and I'll be stuck on it for a while.
But there's nothing wrong with that. That shows you, and it shows the audience that you are very passionate about what you do and
Yes.
what you do. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. But I appreciate, you coming on, sharing your story, sharing who you are, what you do, and how you do it for the communities. And like you said, go follow him on Instagram. Go check the website out. Tell us the website again.
So it's www.wehoboproperties.com.
All right. Yeah, I heard it first. So, yes, I'm excited. We're gonna have to bring him on so he can actually show us some pictures, or maybe even school us on how to get more invested. Because one of the things to me for wellness is not only just physical, like I was saying earlier, mental. Finances is one of the key things that we have to have into perspective, because that'll keep our momentum going. If you don't have something that you own, or something that you're into, or something that belongs to you, or something that you can relate upon, or something that you build a foundation with, it's kind of hard to keep that constant flow. And it's okay to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to have these things and think you have everything under control, but we want to have more. We want to have some consistency for a fact. So, yes, thank you for tuning in, everybody. Again,
Yes.
go to www.nadiabynature.com. Grab that ebook. Get your mini gut ebook, y'all. Like, I can't tell you, it's easy. Like, we want to be well so we can sell. Like he said,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want to be
You're right.
well so we can sell. We want to keep our wellness up and intact. So go to the website, go look and book a consultation so you can get your wellness up. Do you hear me? And then we're going to have the group together to where we're going to even bring Mr. Dixon back so he can tell us again in a wellness group of what we're doing, what we need to do to get our foundations together.
Yeah.
So again, thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for coming on. And we'll see y'all on the other side.
Peace.